Joshua Valor.
Hey man, how's it going?
Doing all right? You under the weather a little bit?
Yeah, I've been up all night.
Making videos, I bet. Staying busy. Listen, dude, I got this amp. You should check it out. You know FIO. They make a desktop amp. It's the K9 Pro DAC amp combo. It's super sweet.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. Yeah, I got something to drop off here, but once I do that, yeah, I'll check it out.
All right, dope. Yeah, finish your biz. Let me know what you think of it.
All right, will do. See you later, man. What's up, guys? My name is Josh, and welcome to another video. Before we get started, Opus the audio store did send this out. FIO has nothing to do with this review, and no one is paying or asking me to say anything good or bad. Let's start off with the warning label, because this has got the biggest warning label of any audio product I think I have ever come across. It's just for the voltage switch on the bottom of this unit, but it's huge. Now the build itself is dense. This is worth every bit of the $799 asking price for this. This thing is one dense mother. And not only is the density very high, but the actual build quality in general is much higher and greater than any other FIO product that I've personally ever looked at. This thing is actually pretty impressive. And not only is it impressive for a FIO product, it is impressive as just a general audio product in this price category. It's actually really well put together. The volume dial has this rich, dense feeling, kind of like the rest of the build. And around that is a colored ring that can be RGB to match all of your RGB setups. You've got a ton of inputs and a ton of outputs. Let me run through them really quickly, just save a little bit of time. Your outputs are XLR 4.4 millimeter and 1/4 inch out of the front for headphones, or XLR or RCA out of the back. Your inputs consist of Bluetooth, coaxial, optical, USB, 4.4 millimeter balanced, and RCA inputs. So between all the digital inputs and the Bluetooth inputs, this thing is actually pretty flexible. It can also handle a number of different types of Bluetooth codecs, and you can actually select those in the app. And yes, there is an app. So this app has control over almost all of the functionality on this device. It can cover things from the ring light being off, blue, or an RGB gradient, though you can't select a specific color. It can control brightness of that light. This can also change your input source remotely just from your phone. You can do Bluetooth codec changes from these selections available on the iPhone at least. You can do channel balancing and DAC filters, and there is an equalizer. I've only been able to use the equalizer though with Bluetooth on the phone, not when I'm plugged in via USB or optical, unfortunately. I'm not sure if this is designed that way or if this is a glitch in the app. Now, among one of the stranger things that I've come across with this thing is that there is a USB-C on the side of this device. Now on the website, it says that this is for smartphones, but I could not get it to connect to either of the iPhones that I have. Now this build is generally very good. It's super versatile. I like the app support. I like the input selection that this has, and I like the output selection that this has. This basically covers, I think, anything most people will desire. But there are a couple quirks with it that I think are either noteworthy or just straight up just not that great. One of the noteworthy ones, depending on how you run your setup, is that when you switch devices, let's say you switch from USB to Bluetooth, it will unconnect the USB from your computer. So all of a sudden, your computer will default to whatever is the default of audio devices. It'll start popping up on whatever other device you had set as your sound default. And then once you turn it back into USB, it will then reconnect to the computer, and it doesn't stay there as an available source on the computer all the time. Now, like I said, depending on how you run your setup, this could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing. For my setup, this doesn't really work all that well. I don't like it too much. But just be aware that it works like that. Also, another feature of this is that you can tell that this sounds good because it's got a gold sticker on it. Oh wait, Josh, it's not actually a gold sticker. It's actually like a plastic glued, indented, built into the chassis thing that you cannot get rid of. I don't know why. Well, I know why, branding deals, but still, it's there. You can't get rid of it. Sorry. One actual complaint that I have about the build is that the buttons and switches on the side are kind of difficult to see. Now you get around this eventually just by muscle memory, knowing what the 4 buttons and switches do, but still, of those 4 buttons and switches, you have your power, your input selection, your gain stage settings, then you have a DAC out, a pre-out, and a headphone out, and that headphone out will go to all of the ports that are on this. Now, if we peel away the outer shell, we get to the internals, and this features technology that we've seen on many other amplifiers, which is THX technology for its amplification. This specifically is the 788 Plus. Now, this has been paired with an AKM 4499 EQ DAC chip, and the combination of the two does seem to be a winning recipe. We did see the 788 Plus in another DAC amp before, which was the Monoprice THX DAC amp, which came in at $500, but is since been discontinued. I do personally like the sound quality of this one a little bit more. It's not quite as flexible in the EQ realm, but it does have a lot more input options, including things like Bluetooth, and the build is just substantially better. This DAC will handle up to 384 kilohertz. It will also do DSD and MQA for those of you who are into that. Now, this does have some other cool internals, but for that, I would recommend checking out the website. Now, this amp measures fairly well. The total harmonic distortion for the entire system is about 0.0007%, so it's very low, though not the lowest. And I think in the 32 ohms, it will output 2 watts. And it's definitely not the most amount of power for the money. Like if you were to split this up into a stack, you could get more power and even cleaner specs. So with this, I think the appropriate way to look at it is not as each spec mattering as much as necessarily the completed picture and seeing if that completed picture fits your particular lifestyle. Now, sonically, one of the things that intrigued me about what Doug was telling me about this was that he liked it as a THX amp. In his own words, he finds most THX amps to be a little bit too clinical for his preferences. Now, then he says that this one was neutral but fun and less tonally congested. Now, I have a slightly alternative take that rather than combating that statement sort of runs a little bit more parallel with it. I find there to be a ton of crossover between this THX amp and a lot of the other THX amps that I've tried. However, there are a couple differences, and one of them is definitely that tone and balance. I'll talk about that in a second. But I think the most notable change to me has been the top end. The top end is slightly quenched on this, slightly more liquidy, smoothed over, a little bit more milky than something like a THX 789, for example. Now, this amplifier is still a specific sounding amplifier. It's still a very exact, precise sounding amp, but not quite as much as to that level. So it's a little bit smoothed off in the top end. Not a ton, but I think it's a nice amount of smoothing. Now, this will do a fantastic job of cooling down some more energetic headphones, but you may prefer the slightly more clinical sound of the THX amp. Now, I do very much agree with the tonal changes that DMS mentioned, specifically something with the same amplifier, which is the 788 Plus, which was the monoprice THX stack amp. Same amplifier built into both of these. That one always seemed a little bit tonally bottled to me. Now, you were able to adjust it with some of the EQ adjustments that you could make on that amplifier. But this one, especially in comparison to that one, seems a lot more open and free and forgiving for tonal properties. It seems a little bit warmed up compared to that. Not a super warm amplifier, but a little bit warmed up from the otherwise sterile tonal properties of a lot of the THX stuff that I've personally heard. Now, the rest and kind of the bulk of the sound, I think, is very THX. It very much toes the line of what that brand house sound has become, which is fast, clear, domineering over imaging, dynamics, and bass response, and has an incredible deep blackness to the spaces between instrument placement. That is a description that I can't remember where I first heard it, but I think it's very apt here. There's incredible depth behind the in-between spaces of the solidified sounds. It's very cool. So in conclusion, this thing has a couple weird quirks that I would personally change. However, altogether, this is an incredible amplifier with a very wide feature set mixed with the build quality and resulting in the sound quality that it has. I think this is absolutely worth the asking price, and Theo, I think, has impressed me with this. This is another great recommendation from DMS. I will leave a link to his channel in the description down below. Every once in a while, he will call me and just be like, that thing is really good, you should check it out. And I'm usually like, okay, Doug. So I think you will enjoy his recommendations as much as I do. His channel is linked down below. And I think his review of this Theo amp will be out soon as well. So thanks a lot for watching. Till the next video, my name is Josh, signing off.